and boom goes the dynamite.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into today's edition of Daily Dive. I'm your host, Renee Washington. We've got lots of major stories to get into, starting with the final two games that we haven't had a chance to discuss yet here on Daily Dive. Yesterday, we talked about 8 of the games. We've got a couple more to get into. We also have to talk about the unit, Alex Buque, and much more here on Daily Dive. Well, with that being said, let's welcome in producer Mike as we get into our top story of the day, presented by the Daily Dive store, where you can check out all the merchandise that we have. And that link is in our social media bios. Let's start off with the unit. Alex Buque, Saskatchewan Rush goalie, trending after Barstool reposted his post-game interview. And many people calling Buque a unit. I'm still trying to figure out what that means, Mike. I guess I'm not cool, apparently. But I, in watching the video, it is hysterical. It's Alex Buque style, stoic, serious, short answers, a censored word in there, and business as usual. What were your thoughts on the unit?
I'm more of a Pat McAfee show guy than I am a Barstool Sports guy, but apparently the two fan bases intertwine sometimes. And so you'll see the word he's a dog, and you also see he's a unit. And of course, I believe he's like 5'9", like 300 some pounds, which is amazing. There was a conversation in the comments of, is that even fair? Which of course, I mean, what is fair? I mean, it's sports. Like, you got a competitive advantage. It is interesting that one thing about the Rush this year is they have a goalie now who's like stepping up to the plate. And I don't know if they really had that last year. That was one of the big things they wanted. And of course, health helps as well. But against his former team, he seemed fired up, but he seemed Alex Buque as usual, and that's what they needed to win.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, the Barstool community and the Pat McAfee show community, McAfee show, they've got their own way of things, to say the least. But look, the unit, it's not a unit of measurement for those of you that are tuning in. No, it's a unit as in like, according to Google, a very large and impressive person. I know there were some references to him with Bubba from Forrest Gump and other different references, because he's in the interview with his pads on. He's a stocky guy. He's a solid built man with the pads on, especially. He looks like he could be, a lineman. So absolutely, I know there are people like, what sport is this? Is this indoor soccer? No, that is not indoor soccer.
It's soccer.
I know. People
no offense to you guys. No offense to the soccer players.
Like, soccer players are not built like that. Like, typically, you do not see a soccer goalie at the professional level. If you look at sports bodies, it does not look. I would say hockey, football, lacrosse, but people cluelessly in the comments were like, "What is this? What sport is this? Who is this legend? I need to know more." So it's all in a positive way for sure. Of Alex Buque getting that notoriety and a trending moment through Barstool, that people are paying more attention and actually in the comments educating each other on the NLL and what the NLL is and where it is, because some people also were talking about his accent. And so they're talking about, well, it's a league of Canadian players as well as U.S. players. So this viral moment led to a teachable moment for those to learn more about the NLL, thanks to Alex Buque, the unit, for being Alex Buque in that interview. But in that interview, they were talking about the Rush's victory because they did knock off the Vancouver Warriors. The Warriors coming off of that trade with Philadelphia, sending Mitch Jones to the Wings. And in that game, Vancouver actually led at the half by 1. And then the game was tied up with just around 12 minutes remaining in regulation. And Saskatchewan did come away with the 6-goal win. They advanced to 4-2. We have a lot of teams in that 4-2, 2-loss mark, I should say. 4-2, 6-2, something and 2. Well, Saskatchewan joins that group. And we saw also Kyle Rubbish play his 171st game as a member of the Rush, which is a team record. So a solid win for Saskatchewan, a nice moment for Kyle, and a nice moment for Alex post-game with that viral interview, Mike.
I do want to say, because I think you'll agree with me, a lot, especially with social media age, leagues are built on stars, whether NBA classic fans like it or not. It's a star powered league for everything. Like the reason the Pro Bowl is still a thing is because of stars. And to have a guy like Alex Buque, and I love the lacrosse hardcore fans who are like pulling up the some hit like where he came out and then just laid some dude out. You need that to drive the interaction because it creates controversies and narratives, and you start saying, well, who's the best goalie? Is it Del Bianco? Is it Nick Rosie? Is it Alex Buque? You love those kind of things, and I think NLL has got to be ecstatic that at least for 8 hours they were on top of the Barstool Sports world.
Yeah, and look, a moment like that for Alex Buque, for Saskatchewan, for the NLL is a moment. It's a moment that we need to relish in, even if it is brief, because it just created more conversation. And like you said, people love the stars. They love to troll. They love to question things. They love to debate and get into controversies and comparing players, and we don't have that in the NLL, and it's needed. There aren't as many conversations around who's the best of all, the greatest of all time, who's the top goalie, who's the top team, who's the team that beats. So having this moment, I think, does lead to, and hopefully will lead to, just more notoriety around these much needed conversations on who is the NLL, who are the players behind the NLL, and that facial recognition, because a player like Kyle Rubish, who's played 171 games, are enough people talking about that? Probably not. Are enough people talking about trades like Mitch Jones going to the Wings? Probably not. So having these moments where we can bring the NLL to the forefront and have more conversations is needed.
By the way, Vancouver deserves a boatload of credit, like you did mention. They were leading at halftime. I know it was in Vancouver, and Cody Jansen was saying, "Oh well, Saskatchewan struggles." Man, darn all that. Okay, this is a different team. Okay, just because the team from 2017 struggled doesn't mean it does now. And so, shout out to Vancouver for really stepping up and wanting to not be a doormat. I know the Rush maybe woke up in the fourth quarter, but in the third quarter there was one goal. It was by the Rush, and that's a good feeling if you're a Warriors fan. If there are any left right now, it's a good feeling if you're a Warriors player. Hey, we were up against one of the best teams. Cough for a later segment, and we looked okay for a minute. So it feels good.
Yeah, now you'd like to have the final score be a little bit closer, but you can definitely take away some positives from this. At 1-7, there are those small victories you have to pull from. And so for Vancouver, you can say we were up at half, and now if we go back and we maybe tweak how we played in the second half, or even when we were tied up with just around 12 minutes remaining, then we may possibly win this game. So, at least they were in it. If it was a situation where it was an early deficit, it was a blowout, it was ugly early, totally different story. But as a Warriors fan and a player for them, there are some positives that you can take away from that loss if you're a Warriors fan or on that roster.
1-7. You're right.
Yeah, we like the small victories. There's another team that may have a small victory, and that's Panther City after dropping a 2-goal loss. We'll get into that game a little bit more here on Daily Dive after this quick break. Welcome back to Daily Dive. I'm your host, Renee Washington. We've got producer Mike on the show, and this segment presented by Fanatics. Be sure to check out the link in our social media bio to check out all the great things that Fanatics has to offer, their NLL merch and much more. And we've been talking about small victories. We've been talking about the excitement of Alex Buque going viral. Small. That's a major moment for the NLL. And then also the moments of Kyle Rubish becoming of all Rush players in history, becoming the player to set a record for the most games as a member of the Rush. Well, also a small victory for Panther City. You drop a 2-goal loss to San Diego Seals, who are 6-1, is one of the top teams in the league without a doubt. You're now at 500, and in that game for the Seals, we saw Dane Doby and Randy Stotts, each with a hat trick and 2 assists in the game. And it was definitely a game that we saw a little bit of everything. Mike, initial thoughts on this game, as we've had a chance to look through all the others that happened this past weekend, what stands out to you most about this game?
For a team with 4 losses, Panther City, I don't know if they've been blown out once by a good team. Like, I can't look at any of their 4 losses and say, boy, that was ugly. Boy, year 1 to year 2, what happened? Like, nothing is going on. They look competitive. Like, I give credit to the 1-7 Warriors for hanging around, but Panther City is like, maybe, I want to say trade, but maybe a piece away. I know Callum Crawford joined the team, but maybe another piece away from starting to win some games in a row here. Because, like I said, they played a lot. And the fact that you're with the Seals, who again go cold for eons at a time, Panther City is no slouch. Mm-hmm. And shout out to them for being a team in Dallas with all the sports there. And they look okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. It's great to see teams that, although they're at 500, as you mentioned, it's been very competitive with how they've been competing with the top teams in the league. A 2-goal loss to San Diego, competitive all the way throughout. You first of all able to score 10 goals on San Diego, and then also able to hold them to 12 with a team that's offensively one of the best in the league. So there's positives, more small victories. For Panther City, they do have a number of things they're doing in terms of initiatives. You talk about being in the Dallas area. Yes, that Fort Worth, Dallas area has a lot sports-wise they're competing with in terms of the Cowboys, the Mavs, the Stars, the Wings for the WNBA, not the Philadelphia Wings, guys. Well, the Rangers as well in Major League Baseball. It's a big sports town. It's a big sports city, and they all play within the same area. I've actually been down there. It's very nice the way they have it constructed. But also Panther City's been doing a good job getting involved in the community, which has been great to see, trying to increase ticket sales, but also trying to connect with the local school districts, such as the Fort Worth and Arlington school districts, to give back, to be involved with some reading initiatives, that if adding incentives for the number of books students read, they get lacrosse tickets. Who doesn't love that? So it's great to see they're not only competing on the field with some close losses to top teams, but they are also making changes happen and competing off the field in a positive way, which you love to see.
I'm not saying dodgeball is not a fun thing to play in PE class when I was growing up. But I would like to think I would have been a little bit better at lacrosse. I mean, if they got like teaching lacrosse in PE curriculums, according to this report on NLL.com, I'm all in. Like, give me a stick. Let's whack it up a little bit with the elementary schoolers. Let's get a goal back there. Let's get a big kid to play goalie so he can have some fun too. I mean, I'm telling you, that's awesome. The fact that they're able to influence a school district is pretty amazing, I'd say. I think, oh, lacrosse, what are you talking about? Dude, look at us. That's awesome.
You love it. And also it's great. It's in line with the Every Child Matters initiative that the NLL is doing, but the release across the NLL website did share more details about this initiative that Panther City is doing in the local school districts of being able to teach lacrosse. So providing introductions to the game of lacrosse for not only students, but also teachers as well, including that in their gym curriculum, their PE curriculum. Physical education, and then also being able to team up with the different districts to provide lacrosse books and equipment, and then a reading initiative, as I mentioned before, of giving out complimentary game tickets as students read a certain number of books. So not only are they getting involved actively with exercise and PE and enrichment of getting hands-on experiences playing lacrosse. First of all, I love dodgeball, by the way. That was I just love gym class.
You were athletic.
Yeah, I didn't love having to change in the locker rooms in middle school because that was like, as a kid, that was interesting. But I, regardless, loved every aspect otherwise about gym class. But to be able to have lacrosse and gym would have been really cool. So with that being said, Panther City is at 500. Their next 3 games, at least one winnable game, and then big test facing Vancouver again. And then also they've got a back-to-back games against Colorado. So as we talked about, some really impressive results against top teams. Let's see what they do against a team struggling to get wins. And then the Mammoth, a team as defending champs, is still in that conversation as a top team as well.
Yeah, so they played the Rush, lost by 3. They played Colorado, lost by 3. Like those were close competitive games. At first we were like, "Oh, should they have been in it?" I guess we're figuring out, yeah, they should have been the entire time. They lost to Rochester by 8, but when Rochester was Rochester, then now they're just the K-Hawks of old. But like you said, Vancouver's a winnable game unless they play with some more fire like they did against the Rush. Do they get one of the Colorado games, Renee? Because I think
so.
I think so too. It's a matter of like, are they good enough to get both? If Colorado's offense keeps on playing around, they might be.
We've talked about it before. It's one thing to be at the top of a league. It's another thing to stay there. And I think for Colorado, they are dealing with some of that. There's extra pressure. Everybody's playing them, trying to knock off the defending champs, and has that extra excitement on how when they do come in to play them, that to them it is a championship game. When you win a title, you are now everybody's championship game because they can now say, we beat the defending champs. We are a championship caliber team. So for Panther City, I think we're going to see them play some great lacrosse. I'm not sure yet which of these games they're going to win. It's a little early for me to give my picks, but I think they at least split this series and win one of them, especially since they did already play them. So I imagine as we proceed through the rest of the season that we're going to have some question marks around Colorado, to be honest, because you have to make major changes. We talked about it with Georgia as they're in a swarm slump. You have to make major changes when you're at the top of the league, and you can't get stagnant because everybody else is making changes to beat you. So if you're not making off-season changes, shaking things up, bringing in some youth, bringing in some more talent, people are going to catch you and pass you. And we may be seeing that a bit with the Mammoth right now.
And Panthers, yeah, you're right about the Mammoth. And I don't know if hopefully Ryan Lee comes back. Is that
that's the other question mark? Are we waiting
on
the
spark they need? Are they looking ahead to that moment and just kind of getting complacent? But
sometimes you see teams kind of not coast, but they're like just waiting until their big player gets back to take that next step. But depending on how long this is, you can't keep dropping games. You've got to figure something else out.
I know Panther City's mascot is like Panther City, obviously. I kind of like the Dallas Pests as an alternate name for them. But they're just like sticking around, like, leave us alone. Like, no, we're still here. Like,
so it wouldn't be a bee because the swarm already have that. Would it be a fly or mosquito?
It would be a mosquito or a gnat.
Ew, what a gross mascot.
I mean, they're right there sucking your blood. Like, you don't realize until like a few seconds later, what the heck is this?
That's Dallas.
That's
okay?
enough of that.
That's enough of that. That's super triggering. I don't want to think about that. That's a summertime problem. We're not there yet. But look, the Panther City, definitely a lot of encouraging things that you've been seeing, even in their 4-4 start on and off the field. So these next few games will be a big test for them to see if they can get that win against Vancouver, which on paper they should win. And then also if they can steal one against the Mammoth. So we've got more to get into, though, because we're not done here. We've got more to talk about. We've got our power rankings. It's been a minute since we've given our power rankings. So coming up after this break, Mike and Ike It always makes me think of the candy. Mike and I will be giving our power rankings here on Daily Dive. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Daily Dive, where we've been breaking down all the action from this past weekend, trending video of Alex Buque, aka The Unit, on Barstool, and much more here. I'm your host, Renee Washington, joined by producer Mike, and this segment is brought to you by B-Res Coffee Company. B-Res has fantastic blends of coffee you can choose from, you can sample. You can also check out that link in our social media bio and use the promo code DailyDive when checking out to get your sample pack today for all of you coffee lovers that are down in coffee Monday to Friday to keep up with the Daily Dive. But look, we've got to get into our power rankings presented by Last Brew, presented by B-Res Coffee. And I'm going to let you go first, Mike. This is a tough week for me. So I'm going to let you go first before I share mine, because I may have some hot takes to add to my picks.
Renee has been busy.
That's not why it's a tough week for me.
She's a busy girl. So I want to give a shout out to the Georgia Swarm, by the way, because we released our attendances yesterday, and Georgia Swarm were once again had 8,000 people in the building. Where? No. So if they do have that many people in the building, they're leaving home sad a lot this year. So I just had to get that out of the way, because they're not in my top 5. Obviously, they're just 0-5. Ooh.
They've got a 5, just in the wrong spot.
Yeah, it's not good. Number 5. The Saskatchewan Rush. It might be because I'm holding on to something here. I know the last 2 games they've kind of played around with the Desert Dogs, like bad puppy, stay back, and they've kind of played around with the kitty cats. But I mean, they won, so I guess that works. And Alex Buque has been incredible, as Cody said. Somebody call Crime Stoppers. Love it. Number 4, the Rochester Nighthawks. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Wow. Rylan Hartley is as this team goes, because eventually scoring by committee, who is your guy, and when you don't have the guy, when your guy is the goalie, you lose a lot of tough ones, like to the Bandits without Josh Byrne. Number 3, they're still a top 5 team. Number 3, the San Diego Seals. You know the song by Katy Perry? They're hot and they're cold. I mean, come on, guys. What are we doing playing around with these little teams, man? You guys have got a big 3, big 4, the 73-9 Warriors adding Kevin Durant. I don't know what you guys got, but it's really special. And you're playing around too much to be in my top 2. Number 2 has got 2 MVP candidates on the team, like number 1 does, actually. Nick Rosie and Tom Schreiber. It's good to have the guy and the goalie at the same time. And that's the only reason I gave them the edge over the Nighthawks. There's a nice helicopter. Is because they have the guy and their goalie is more consistent. And number 1, Buffalo Bandits. Probably the best sports team in Buffalo.
Oh,
whoa, I know, right? So,
wow.
Dane Smith, baby. That's spelled Dhane, like the dog. Stepped up for the last 3 games without Josh Byrne. Talk about waiting for Ryan Lee. Wait till Byrne comes back. Oh, Lord. The league is on notice.
Dane isn't a Great Dane?
That's how it's spelled.
Is it?
Dhane.
I thought it was with a... Oh, I'm learning something new, too.
Come on, the dog, you tell his name. I think the dog is spelled D.
I'm Googling.
That's a good point.
I'm correct. I just like to be right because I have been very wrong on this show.
Journalism failed me.
Failed you. It's Great Dane with a Dane, the large-sized dog. Well, look, he is that dog with the H. He's the dog with the H. But look, I respect your picks. I just can't commit to any of these teams. So I'm going to shake things up because I like to make up my own rules with power rankings because why not? Nobody is in charge of our power rankings except us. Number 5 for me is Calgary, actually, because I want to give them some love. Calgary's been a team that we've watched. We talked about Christian Del Bianco. We've talked about just how they are those dogs. They're going to rough things up. They're going to play some ugly lacrosse at times, but I like the way they learn. I like the way they bounce back. And watching that Thunderbirds overtime victory after losing in overtime last week, they have different players that can step up and be that guy. Jeff Cornwall, Dan Taylor did it this week. It's been others in the past. So I like Calgary, and I think they're a team we have to keep a closer eye on because they absolutely have a chance to knock off some teams, even though they are at 4-3. And then I'm gonna actually go with my number 4 teams. Because none of these teams, in my opinion, have clearly earned a 2 or 3 spot. Toronto, San Diego, and Rochester. And for those of you that are watching, you may be saying, Renee is crazy. No, I am not. They struggled with Panther City. They've been struggling this season. Although they only have 1 loss on the season, they have been squeezing by teams, and that will catch up to you like it's caught up to Rochester. Because you need to figure out defensively and between the pipes some consistency and stability. I still don't think they have it. And I think offensively, we still know those questions are answered. They've got their big 3. They've got all the talent in the world and Stotts and Dobie. And the Seals are great offensively. Top team offensively. Struggling defensively still. And if they don't fix it, we'll catch up to them. Rochester, it has caught up to them too. You can only continue relying on things so long. And without having the guy, it has caught up to them, and they've dropped a pair of losses. The Bandits one was acceptable, not loss number 2. So for me, Rochester, you have fallen from my number 1 spot. I kept saying you're number 1 until somebody beats you. Well, you got beat twice. So that moves you way down. But you're still in the top 5. And then also Toronto. And Toronto, honestly, is like a half step above everybody else. Like, they'd be like a 2.5, whatever the ranking would be. 3.5 if everybody else is a 4. Because Toronto absolutely has been consistent. They've got Tom Schreiber and Nick Roos, as you've said. They've got leadership. They've got youth. They've got experience. They've got the guy. They've got a lot of those pieces. And I think without a doubt, they are a top team, but I still need to see more wins from them. That has to translate into more victories. Plain and simple. And then at number 1, the Bandits have proven themselves, even without Josh Byrne, still knocking off Rochester, still continuing to play at a high level. And when you see not only Josh and Dane, but others like DeHoga that can step up, you've obviously got Matt Vince in net. This is an absolute top team right now. And I don't know who is going to be able to knock them off that spot. But for now, they're sitting at the number 1 spot on my power rankings until further notice. So that being said, we've given our power rankings. Share your power rankings because it's an interesting time right now. Saskatchewan is teetering on that line. Calgary's there's like, in my opinion, a clear number 1 right now in the Bandits. A chunk of teams sitting at that middle.
A chunk.
And then there's another chunk of teams in like Halifax, Calgary, Saskatchewan that's chomping at the bit, but sitting around 500 and needs to do some things in order to take that next step to crack the top 5. So I'm not sold, and you have to earn it in everything in sports, including being in the top 5 in power rankings.
The San Diego Seals, great point by you about their goaltending. I'll tell you what, though, if they don't move Frank Scigliano by the trade deadline, you got to wonder if they actually trust Chris Origlieri. Because you've got some vet just sitting there that could add you even more firepower, and maybe you're waiting for the right price. And if you don't, it's like, hey, they don't trust their number 1 guy. And for Calgary, they were so close. That was like my 5B team. Like, they were close.
Yeah.
Their defense is nasty.
It's a toss-up between them and Saskatchewan, but I think I like the extra fight that Calgary brings. You know, they have a little extra energy and oomph when you watch them play. So I bumped them up, but Saskatchewan's right there, you know, again, honorable mention for sure. But that was our last brew of the Daily Dive, presented by B-Res Coffee Company, as we shared our power rankings. Producer Mike and I have given our top 5-ish. Let us know who's in your top 5. And for all of you that are tuning in, be sure to give us a follow, subscribe at Daily Dive Lax across all social media, and also to check out our show each and every day, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, bringing you the latest and the greatest in lacrosse talk. So for my producer, Mike, I'm Renee Washington saying have a great rest of your day. We'll see you more for Daily Dive very soon. Bye, guys.